The family history. My husband's mother died when he was 17. His father was having an affair while she was sick. The affair partner became his wife. My husband never forgave him and left before he turned 18 and before their oldest child could be born. It's been years of no contact. 3 months ago, my husband was told that his father, who he was estranged from, and his father's wife had passed away in an accident. Husband's father put him down as the guardian of their 2 young children in case anything happens. My husband had no idea his father had done this. He never actually met those children. He was estranged from his father by the time the older of the 2 was born. My husband told the person who called that he was unwilling to become their guardian. The person understood, and what ended up happening is my husband's aunt took the kids. This is his father's sister. She wants my husband to take them still. She's reached out countless times to convince him to meet the kids, form a relationship, and see if he could build up to wanting them. He has no interest in this. After my husband blocked her and stopped responding, she decided to show up at the house while I was working. She told me we needed to talk and told me I could decide we were taking them and I could be the person to make the first step. She told me they were just as much my responsibility as my husband's and that they're orphan children and don't need the family history being the reason they never know their brother. I told the aunt I had no responsibility to raise the kids and I would not raise them if my husband wasn't interested. I told her if she doesn't want them, she should say no, but she shouldn't try to force them into a home where they're unwanted and unloved. I told her it was tragic for the kids, but they were not my children. She called me heartless and told me that as a woman, I should be ashamed to be married to someone who would discard flesh and blood children over the actions of adults. I made her leave. I had to block her on my work phone then because she attempted to reach me to tell me again that I was this bad person. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Their dad was out of his mind putting your husband down as the guardian in case anything happened. If you're not talking and haven't in years, it follows that they're not going to want to take in kids they've never met. This right here. Dad might as well have left the kids with the stranger, because that's what OP was to him at that point. Completely unacceptable. Why isn't she stepping up as a woman? If the aunt is so concerned, then she can raise them herself. She's saying that they are this guy's flesh and blood. Well, aren't they hers as well? I think she just doesn't want the responsibility. I feel for those kids. Yeah, this heartless woman who's actively trying to discard flesh and blood by shaming other people for doing the same is disgusting. Those poor kids. Aunt better get her act together and be a good mom since she took them in. If she took them in hoping she could convince OP's husband to take them, then she's a damn hypocrite. This aunt is more than a bit pushy. Someone needs to let her know she's not in charge. Honestly, I would have served her with a restraining order. Your father-in-law was a huge idiot here and his sister isn't much better. It sucks that the kids are being turned into pawns in this whole scenario as they haven't done anything wrong. Seeking a relationship with your husband would have been one thing and he would still be perfectly within the lines of decency to not even want that, but to try to force orphan children into the home of a total stranger that doesn't want them is garbage-tied behaviour. Maybe contact the agency and say you're concerned for the kids' welfare since she's so adamantly trying to get rid of the responsibility she chose. A few years ago, I was going to a conference, so I asked my sister if she could watch my dogs while I was away. She said she'd do it if I paid her, so I hired a service instead. Yes, I could have paid her, but it would have required me to go pick up her unemployed butt from my parents' house and let her stay at my house, eating my food and drinking my alcohol. The service came in, fed and walked my dogs. When I moved out of our parents' home, my friends helped me, but not her. She was busy doing schoolwork. She said she would take a break if I paid for her time. She was watching TV. When she moved in with a boyfriend, now husband, I helped her out. She never even bought pizza and a beer. She's an amateur photographer, but pretty great to be honest. When I got married, it was a small thing in my parents' backyard. To save money, I did everything with friends and family. My aunt lent me her wedding dress and one of my friends made the cake. Everyone pitched in to decorate and set up and clean up. I asked if she could take the wedding pictures. She said, only if I paid. So I got a bunch of disposable cameras, used those for candid shots, and paid a photographer for the ceremony and formals only. I now make enough money that I can afford to make my life easier by just paying for whatever I need, and this is what I do now for most stuff. I still do favors for friends and they often return them. My sister ended up with a nice guy and they're getting married soon. She called me last week and asked if I could watch her kids so they could go on vacation. Her husband's parents got sick and ours moved to Florida. So I said I would if she paid me. She can afford it, but now it's all about how family helps each other out. I reminded her of all the times I asked her for help, and she said I was being petty and vindictive. She tried getting my parents on her side, but they told her that she'd set the ground rules for our relationship. Now she's on social media trying to get her friends to make me feel guilty about not helping family. I probably shouldn't have responded, but I did, saying that her friends were also available to help her out for free. But I guess she burned a few bridges there too, and some called her out for always wanting to be paid for a favour. It's become a huge mess. Am I the idiot? Karma moment, not the idiot. What goes around comes around. She didn't want to help you without getting paid, so you're treating her the way she treats you. Your parents are right. She made the mess. She can clean it up herself. The double standards speak volumes, and her going on social media clearly backfired. You were right in responding. Honestly, I wouldn't trust her at all. Blocking her on social media can help too. So she got plenty of chances to help family, and all of these were responded to with, "Pay me." This is a clear case of made your bed, and even your parents agree she's wrong. The only thing I would maybe do differently here would be just to list all the requests for help you've given her and her standard response to those requests. So basically, she trained you in how to respond. How can she be mad about this? She sounds like a selfish witch with a capital W, and everybody knows it. Apparently, you're not the only one who had this experience with her. She's dug her own grave with you and a bunch of others, so let her bury herself in it. I can't stand people like her. My 26 female grandparents have 3 children. My dad, my aunt, and my uncle. I have 1 sister, and my aunt and uncle don't have any children. However, my uncle got married about 3 years ago, and his wife, Mary, has 3 kids. Her kids have barely made an effort to be a part of my uncle's life, although he does see them from time to time because they have a good relationship with their mother. They've made even less of an attempt with the rest of us. I've never even met them. My grandparents have tried to get to know them, but with little luck. My grandparents bought a fairly nice house when I was a baby. I was unaware until a few weeks ago, but it seems their plan was always to sell the house whenever they got ready to move and split the money among their grandchildren. My dad and his siblings will get whatever's left in their will, so this is how they wanted to set up their grandchildren. They've saved a good amount of money for themselves and are now moving into a retirement community. They sold the house, and my sister and I are each getting about $250,000. This is really useful for my husband and me. We've been looking to get a bigger house because we're about to have a second kid, so it will allow us to put a sizable down payment on that and still have a lot to go into savings. My sister plans to pay off her student loans and then put most of it into savings as well. So we're really grateful to our grandparents because we both feel like this will set us up well for the future. My uncle called me yesterday and said that Mary was very upset because her children were not included. She says that they're my grandparents' grandchildren now too and deserve a cut. My grandparents said it's up to us if we want to share, but they left it to us for a reason. I'm torn because we had plans for that money. If they'd made any effort to be grandchildren to my grandparents, I wouldn't hesitate, but they didn't even meet my grandparents until they were in their late teens, early 20s, and have made little effort since. Am I the idiot if I don't share? Not the idiot, not even a teensy-weensy bit. The audacity of them to even ask. This is what your grandparents want for their grandchildren. Your uncle's wife's children are not their grandchildren. It wouldn't be fair to you and your sibling to suddenly split your inheritance 5 ways instead of half because your uncle married a woman with children a few years ago. That's nonsense. Send them gift cards to Chick-fil-A. So it's true that family isn't limited by blood, but there's no relationship between your grandparents and Mary's children. They may be step-grandchildren by marriage, but not by their actions. They have no reason to expect anything at all from your grandparents. Your grandparents wanted you and your sister to be well set for starting your lives. You have no reason to change that. Mary's only been in your family for 3 years. She is absolutely 100% wrong to count on something for her kids, and she's 1000% wrong in trying to pressure you for it. She's a gold-digging fortune seeker. Tell her you are honoring your grandparents' wishes, which is the last on this topic. Your uncle is a real jerk for doing this. I'd block him and his wife. I'm nearly adult female, the oldest of 4. My sisters are both special needs with serious health problems, and my brother has severe asthma, which has made his life difficult. Because of all the medical complexities my siblings have, and because many doctors and therapies have been part of their lives for so long, we've never had a lot of money or many great opportunities. My parents take the help they can get, but a lot of stuff has been out of reach for us. We never did extracurricular activities because our parents couldn't afford them. We could only go on school field trips if there was a fund available, and only if it was a few hours versus overnight stuff. As a result, we never go on vacations, and I missed out on a few opportunities over the years that came up. One was the chance to get photos I'd taken for a class displayed at this gallery where they showed talented youth from schools. My parents said we couldn't afford to go and they couldn't leave the kids, so I had to turn it down and my photos weren't displayed because I couldn't be there. The other was the chance to go on vacation with my best friend's family, who'd offered to pay for everything. My parents told me I was needed at home and it was too much money for my friend's family to pay. We disagreed about me getting a job when I started working last year. They didn't love it, but I wanted to have money. I wanted to be able to afford things and do stuff without being told it wasn't in the family budget. Now my brother has been asked to represent his grade at a science fair thing several hours away. My parents want to take him for the 2-day thing, which would mean 2 overnights if they get back late or 3 if they come back the next morning. I'd already made plans and bought tickets to this event that was happening over that weekend. My friends and I are going. However, my parents want me to cancel to stay at home with my sisters. They want me to sacrifice this for my brother. He begged me. He told me how much it means to him. But I don't want to. I've always had to make the most sacrifices as the oldest. Now I'm in a position where I can do stuff for fun with my own money, and I'm being asked to sacrifice for my brother. Also for my parents because they want to use this as a break, when they didn't make the same effort for me when I had an opportunity presented. I said no, and they were all mad at me, my brother especially. He told me I was the only reason he would not be able to go. He told me I should care about him, not missing stuff the way I had to, and that it would make me a better sister. My parents told me it would have been nice for them to get a break and put a smile on my brother's face, but apparently I am twisted with bitterness. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Tell your parents one of them can go with him and the other parent will look after the other 2 kids. Tell your brother and parents that they are not letting him go. A teen doesn't need 2 parents to take him, and the 2 young siblings only need 1 parent to look after them. Tell your parents if they want a one-night break to book it in advance with you. They need to check your plans and see if it's workable for you. Your brother is innocent in this, as are you. Spin it on them, and don't let them put the blame and focus of his hate on you. Don't compare to yourself, that will always be thrown back at you and they will say you're jealous. You can't win with that line. Right, it seems like such an obvious solution. OP, you are not responsible for your siblings. You're their sibling, not their parent. You're a child, not a free caregiver. It was already wrong for them not to let you go on vacation with your best friend's family because you're needed at home. Go on your trip with your friends and get out of the house ASAP when you turn 18. And don't let them guilt you into becoming caregivers of your siblings when they get old. I have a tween daughter who recently had a birthday. She has a different dad from the rest of my children. Whenever one of my kids turns 12, I buy them their first phone, which is usually a cheap phone, because I don't think a kid needs an expensive phone. She's been complaining recently and asking me to buy her a phone because all her friends have one. I told her she had to wait as her siblings did. So imagine my surprise when today she came home from her dad's and had a phone with her, and not just a cheap phone. I don't know much about phones, but it looked expensive. I was furious, so I took her phone away and told her she was not getting it back until she turned 12. She started to cry and called her dad, who called me an idiot for taking the phone away. I told him he had no right to buy that for her, and she should have got a cheap phone on her 12th birthday like the rest of her siblings. Am I the idiot for taking my daughter's phone away? Why can't her dad have his own rules and buy her a nice phone? Are you envious? Dad can certainly have his own rules at his place, but did you even talk to Dad about this rule of yours and see if he agreed? If so, he may have agreed to wait, but even if he didn't, you handled this situation extremely poorly. You are the idiot. Not the idiot. Compromise. Give her the phone back when she's going to her dad's and take it back when she returns to your care. This allows you your rules and Dad can have his rules. You're both her parents, but sadly there are different rules for each household. This would be considered theft. It was purchased by the father and given as a gift. The OP has no ownership over the phone. Also, it doesn't sound like these parents are co-parenting. They should discuss these decisions together. OP made a decision without consulting the father, and the same for the father. Everyone's the idiot here, and it sounds like you'll need a phone. Seriously, getting a cell phone for a kid is kind of a big deal. Parents need to set aside their differences and communicate with each other to benefit their children. The second that kid realizes you and your ex aren't communicating and that they can get you guys to override each other, you're done as effective parents. 110% done. You need to set aside your egos, sit down, and have an adult discussion about this situation and how you'll handle situations like this moving forward. Together or separately, you need your kid to know you're a united front and that mommy said no, so our last daddy crap doesn't play.